you heard of Ohuhu? They make all sorts of markers and pens, and their alcohol markers have quite a cult following. Well, I don't use alcohol markers. What I do use is acrylic marker pens as highlighters, and of course I use fine liners in all my line and wash work. So when they said, would I like to give their pens and markers a go, I said, yes, please. My name's Liz Chadderton. I'm a watercolour artist based in Berkshire, and every week I share tips and tricks that I wish I'd known about ages ago. I also like to review art materials, either that are slightly unusual or that are very good value for money. So this week I'm going to be reviewing Ohuhu acrylic paint pens, and I cannot say Ohuhu without laughing, and I'm going to be reviewing their fine liners. Ohuhu have very kindly given a 10% discount code, which is in the description. It's only valid for a couple of months, so use it soon. I love using paint markers to add final touches to mixed media work. This is my journal, and for adding, say, like the white marks here, or on this, got collage, bit of ink work, and then say these white marks and indeed the black marks, because it's really nice to have the opaque of the acrylic over the transparency of the ink and the watercolour. And up to now, I have only used Posca markers. Frankly, I love them. So when Ohuhu said, would I like to try their acrylic markers, I was like, well, yeah, absolutely. And they have sent me this set of 40 different colour acrylic markers, and I've been having a little play with them, making bookmarks. If you want to see how I made the bookmarks, I'll put a link to that film. I've really fallen in love with them. I've been putting stripes of just nice transparent watercolour, and then using a little fine liner. I've been putting in the detail, like the trees and the hedges and things like that, but then using the acrylic markers through stencils, all that stenciling. I've been dotting, I've been doing just stones of some description. Great for putting the sun in, or the moon and the stars. So I thought I'd better do a proper review. Let's have a look at those gorgeous colours. And the first thing I'd say, so Ohuhu, is that they send spare tips, and that just fills my little heart with joy, because you can bet your very favourite colour is the one where the tip is going to get damaged or something like that. So I really love it when manufacturers think about the longevity of their products. It also comes in this really nice little bag. They're not expensive. So these 40 paint markers, £23. I did look up what they cost in other countries. Look, here's my very full notes. 40 Australian dollars, 25.99 US dollars, 25.95 euro, which for 40 pens, I think that's excellent value. 50p a pen. There are 5 fluorescents here and 4 metallics, so we'll have to find those. So look at all these yummy colours. They are so good. If you've not used a paint marker before, they're very easy to do. You just need to give them a jolly good shake. Can you see the variation in the acrylic paint, the colour in there? It does separate out. So every time you use them, just give them a few shakes and you'll hear that little rattle. That's easy enough. You need to pump them up and down. And can you see how the paint is starting to come to the tip? So that's what, three or four pumps, and it's all ready to go. When you've finished, you can wipe the nib off if it's got a lot on there, and then you need to make sure the lid goes back on properly so it doesn't dry out. So they're not exactly tricky, are they? Every marker has got a number on the top, but I don't know why. Isn't that odd? I'm just looking. They're all printed back to front. I think why there'd be a good reason to have back to front numbers. Oh well, anyway, they have got numbers, so if you get to know them and you can read backwards, then maybe that's useful. Just going to point out that I'm a bit confused because I've got 2 5s. I'm also going to point out these just prime so quickly. I'm very fond of Poscas and they usually take way longer than this. Do you know? See, those are both called 11 as well. So maybe these back to front numbers don't signify anything. You see, that's one of the fluorescents, isn't it? And we've got the fluorescent over here. Oh, we've got a 21 and we had a 21 there. Yep, I really don't think those numbers signify anything. And we've got 19. 21. Got that brownie 21 and the yellow one there. That shows the separation really well there. Oh, that's a nice blue. Just going to do the white, which is a bit pointless on the white paper. Ooh. Let's just do it on black. And that's number 11 for what it's worth. And I think that illustrates that it is pretty opaque. And it's so useful for just adding little dots and squiggles and detail and anything else you want to add. Just try these metallics. Got a couple of golds, so that's quite a sort of an old gold, far more yellowy, more sort of brassy gold. Copper, very fond of a bit of copper. Bit of silver. Oh, that's quite shiny actually. This one, which I'm not sure if it's just grey or whether it's a sort of pewter, so whether it's a metallic. Let's just wiggle it. No, I reckon that's just grey. So I'll put that with the black and the white. And there are the 40 colours. So you've got a really nice range of colours, maybe not that many reds, loads of yellows and browns, great range of greens and blues and purples, and then those metallics. To be aware of is they don't dry instantly. So you could smudge it or you can use it to your advantage and you can actually paint with it as well. So when it's wet, you can paint, and when it's dry, it's going to be waterproof. Yeah, you see that's dry and it's not going anywhere. Whereas when that was wet, you can use it. So that's lovely because you can paint with it, do a wash, and then once this is dry, you can layer over it. I can go back in and go right over it. No colour mixing, nothing's going to lift up. But if I wanted to, I can still paint with that, and you get a certain amount of transparency out of the paint if you want. So they are more versatile than simply adding highlights, which is generally how I use them. I showed you how opaque the white was. Let's have a look just at, say, that fluorescent, the fluorescent yellow. You see some of the black paper through it. You might have to work that in a couple of layers, but for a fluorescent colour, I don't think that's bad. Let's just look at the metallic on black. What about that silver that I quite liked? Yeah, that silver is pretty good on black actually. Copper's maybe not quite as metallic as I would like. That old gold. Oh yeah, that's again pretty opaque. because I'm using these to add that opaque element. That is important to me. I haven't used every acrylic marker in the world, definitely not. I tend to say use a white Posca pen. But just to save their blushes, I have actually covered the brand of these particular paint markers because they are horrible. These are pretty new. I've used them once and they dry up, but then when you do the pump action, you get big blobs and they are just really, really unpleasant to use. And I was so disappointed with these when I got them. I just think they're yucky. There you go. That's a really technical word. But you know, if you're trying to do like here, see, I can't get it to flow properly. I have to put a blob and then spread it out. If I was trying to do a smooth area of colour, just look at the difference. Paint markers are not created equal. These only come in one width of nib, so Poscas do come in a really broad range from a very similar size nib here to big chisel nibs, and they do finer ones. So Posca still has probably an edge if you are wanting to do a whole painting using paint markers. But again, I'm not sure whether this is picking up the difference, but I would say the Ohuhu markers are actually more opaque than the Poscas. So for me, what are the pluses of these Ohuhu markers? Well, I would say the price, at 50p a pen, that's brilliant. The opacity, the acrylic in them really gives me that pop of opacity and the ability to cover, but I can water it down and get some transparency. Love that. I love those spare nibs because that gives me faith that I'm going to get some longevity out of these pens. They are so easy to prime. You saw as I was going through all those different colours that I didn't have one that I had to press more than 4 times to get the paint really flowing. The only downside for me is that you can't get any open stock. I am sure this white will be the first one to run out. I won't be able to get another white one without buying a whole set. Ohuhu make lots of different pens. They're very well known for their alcohol markers, but I don't use that in my work. But I do use fineliners. So when I was doing these little sample sort of mixed media pieces, I used fineliners to put some of the detail in, like the tree trunks and the furrows in the field and things like that. And if you're doing any sort of line and wash work, a really good waterproof, fade-proof black pen is great. And this set from Ohuhu has 8 in a pack. In the UK, that's £11. They go from 0.05, which is what I use for the very fine lines in the distance, right through to a brush pen. So let me just show you those really quickly. You can see the range of lines from that super fine to really broad. Let's just put some water over the top and you can see that they don't run. Even I've only just done that brush mark, so it's really broad mark and it's dried very quickly and it hasn't run. My top tip to you is always check your pen and your paper, because you'll find that even really waterproof pens on certain papers, the papers just aren't grippy enough and they might run a little, so it's always worth just double checking. So I might not specifically go out and order these, whereas I absolutely will get more of these marker pens, only because on the whole a black fine liner is fairly ubiquitous. But if you're looking to make up an order value so that you get free postage or something like that, then I really like these fine liners as well. I have really enjoyed using these two sets of pens. And I'm glad to say that Ohuhu has given me a 10% off code to share with you. So that's in the description. It's only valid for the next couple of months. So if you're thinking of getting something, do it sooner rather than later.